Okay, my friends. Good morning, Kuhner country. That's the message that was delivered loud and clear to you, to me, and to over 80% of the voters in this country that have said over and over again in poll after poll, Americans have been consistently clear. They want to pass the Save America Act. They want to restore election integrity and end rampant voter fraud and election corruption. And instead, last night, the U.S. Senate gave the proverbial middle finger, as I said, blank you, to 80% of Americans. In a budget reconciliation package, there were votes on several amendments. One of the most important was on the Save America Act, which, as you know, would outlaw many of the illegal practices or the corrupt practices that Democrats have to keep stealing elections. And in particular, it would mandate voter ID across the entire country, in every state, in every election. It would furthermore demand proof of citizenship in order to be able to register to vote. If you can't prove you're a citizen, i.e., that you're eligible to vote in an American election, then you are not going to be allowed to vote. These two provisions alone would undo 80 to 90% of the voting fraud. It's not a silver bullet. It wouldn't eliminate it completely, but it would clean up our corrupt elections substantially. Every single Democrat voted against it, along with 4 Judas Republicans, 4 Rhino Republicans, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Mitch the Squish McConnell from Kentucky, and one of his final middle fingers to Donald Trump, one of his final knives in the back. And Tom Tillis, he's now leaving the Senate. It's his final year. He's another Rhino from North Carolina, owned lock, stock, and barrel by the Chamber of Commerce. These 4 Republicans, these Judases, essentially gave the middle finger to 80% of Americans. Blank you. And so 48 voted for it, 50 voted against it. Down went the amendment, and pretty much the last chance we will have to pass the Save America Act. Now, it was a very consequential vote. Trump, in the end, did get his $70 billion that he wanted for ICE, for Border Patrol, for immigration enforcement. So, in a sense, he pulled off a key victory. But he may have won the battle and ultimately lost the war, because the Save America Act was one of the centerpieces of his agenda to restore faith and trust in our elections and to finally end this nightmare of voting fraud and election corruption and abuse that has been plaguing our country now for years. And these rhinos, make no mistake about it, didn't just betray their voters, didn't just betray the United States of America. They betrayed their solemn oath to the Constitution of the United States. The Democrats, we get it. That's what they do. But these Republicans, it should now be for their eternal shame that they voted against the SAVE Act. Now, furthermore, it looks now, at least until after the November midterms, we have to see how everything turns out. But it looks that's it. There will not be another chance to vote on the SAVE Act. So this means that one of the key central promises of Donald Trump one of the key tenets of the MAGA agenda that he was elected on in 2024 November will now not be implemented. And what Trump understands is that if you don't have clean elections, in the end, it is going to be very difficult to almost impossible to defeat the Democrats. And all you have to see is what's happening now in California. It is an absolute travesty and tragedy that is now taking place. They are stealing the elections for both mayor and governor underneath our collective nose. And that's why people have been emailing me saying, well, Jeff, I don't understand. These are hugely important elections out, on the West Coast, in California in particular. Why haven't you said anything? The election was on Tuesday, especially yesterday. Many of you were saying, well, I thought you'd mention it at least by Thursday. And I kept, writing people back and saying, they haven't finished counting. The election may have been over on Tuesday night, but they keep counting mail-in ballots. And they're counting and counting and counting. In fact, they came out and said, we may not know the final results, listen to this, for weeks, because they just keep counting. Mail ballot after mail ballot. Now, I want to stress this to all of you. Most third world countries, forget first world countries, just let that go. Third world countries, some of the poorest countries on the face of the planet, are able to conduct an election, a massive election, a national election, and finish counting the votes and give you a winner, certify a winner by the end of the night. It takes maybe now 4 or 5 hours tops with modern technology to count votes, but not in Democrat-run California, baby. It's not 3, 4, 5 hours. It's not even 3, 4, 5 days. You're looking at 2, 3 weeks. And so what has been happening now over the last 48 to 72 hours? President Trump yesterday in the Oval Office sounded the alarm. They're going to steal it. They're going to rig and steal it. And so in the gubernatorial race, where former Fox News host Steve Hilton, a conservative, has run a common sense, focused campaign, relentless campaign now for over a year. He has been everywhere, and he has been focusing on the problems afflicting ordinary Californians. And initially, on election night, he was the winner. He was in first, 27, almost 28%. The Democrat hack, the embodiment of the Democrat corrupt machine, Javier Becerra, a former Health and Human Services Secretary. By the way, he was useless. But anyway, under Joe Biden, he's been a corrupt Democrat hack for decades. He came in second at 25%. And so there were the cameras, there were the microphones. Looks like, because if you don't get the 50% threshold, if you don't surpass the 50% threshold, you go to an automatic runoff. The top 2 candidates go to a runoff in November. And so it looked like it was going to be Hilton versus Becerra. And so people were saying, hey, congratulations. Republicans don't usually get this far in California. Becerra's a weak candidate. You're running on real strong issues that are lighting a fire under your campaign. And Hilton's, fingers crossed, I think we did it. And now the ballots keep coming in. And they're coming in 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 at a time. Tranche after tranche after tranche. And guess what? Not a single vote for Steve Hilton. At the Los Angeles mayoral race, one of the biggest races in the country, the incumbent Karen Bass, an absolute disaster, former communist, former member of the Black Panther Party, very weak. There's a lot of dissatisfaction in opposition to Karen Bass. Faced an incredible insurgency from reality TV star Spencer Pratt. Out of nowhere, this political novice has run one of the best campaigns in recent memory. And he focused on crime, on homelessness, on her inability to prevent wildfires or recover, like what hit the Palisades. He came in second. Bass first, Spencer Pratt second, and it looked like the two of them were going to go to a runoff. And now the ballots keep counting. And all of them that are being counted are now going to the third place finisher, literally a communist. Rahman is her last name. Okay, Trump is again 1,000% correct, not 100, 1,000%. The SAVE Act was seminal, pivotal to stopping this rampant Democratic fraud and cheating that they keep doing, they keep going back to that well again and again. And I want you to listen to him now, because he's in the Oval Office and he's urging the U.S. Senate, especially these rhinos, you've got to vote for the SAVE Act. And he was very candid in an interview with Miranda Devine from the New York Post, where he said, look, they clearly stole the election from me in 2020. The evidence now, we're going to start really releasing it. It is overwhelming. And they actually tried to steal it again in 2024. I'm almost quoting him verbatim. And he said, we just made it too big to rig. We just so overwhelmed them at the polls, it would be so blatant on their part that they would be caught. But he says they keep trying over and over again. They have illegals voting. They have non-citizens voting. They have quote-unquote dead people voting. So he goes, this is the secret to their power. We need the SAVE Act. The Democrats fought it tooth and nail. They were willing to die on this hill. They know perfectly well if we have fair, free, honest elections, they will be wiped out. So they fought against the SAVE Act with everything they had, and they needed collaborators. They needed Judases. And the rhinos delivered them 4. Susan Collins from Maine, I want to repeat it. Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. Never forget these names. Tom Tillis from North Carolina, that scumbag. And of course, to me, the mother of all Judases, Mitch McConnell. And so it went down in flames last night during the budget reconciliation process. And it looks like they're not going to vote on the SAVE Act again until after the midterms. Now, in the midst of all this, Spencer Pratt, he's an independent. He's technically a registered Republican, but he's running as an independent. Ran, when I say a spectacular campaign, even the Democrats admit, almost a flawless campaign. He had a debate with that disastrous mayor, Karen Bass, and he cleaned her clock. He ran circles around her. He has focused on homelessness and how rampant it has become under her leadership and really under the Democrat rule of the last 15 to 20 years, how crime is completely out of control, how illegals now have basically taken over Los Angeles, that it is spiraling into a third world city. And he said her failure in stopping wildfires and then even being able to recover. Look at the Palisades. It was a disaster. This mayor didn't even have water in the fire hydrants to fight the fires. That's how incompetent she is. And so on the key issues that Los Angelinos say they care most about, Pratt has been hitting them again and again and again. And so it was a big defeat because the Democrats run Los Angeles. It is heavily Democratic. Karen Bass did not get to 50%, which would have prevented a runoff. She couldn't hit that threshold or surpass that threshold. So she squeezed out about 1/3 of the vote, 33, 34% on election night. But Spencer Pratt was the story. He finished second. And this is the important point. The third place candidate is a city council member. She is like Graham Plattner, like Mamdani, a self-proclaimed communist. Nitha Rahman. She finished a distant third. Yet all the major media outlets said that Karen Bass was moving on to the runoff. But they said it's undecided about second. And everybody was like, what do you mean? Spencer Pratt was ahead by 7-8 percentage points. No. That's just election night. We're going to keep counting ballots. These mail-in ballots, they flooded the voting bowl, the voting polls with mail-in ballot after mail-in ballot after mail-in ballot, and they said it's going to take us at least a week to 10 days to count all of these mail-in ballots, and they're coming in. And what's incredible, they come in by the tens of thousands in one tranche after another. Not one for Spencer Pratt. Not even one. And now, Nitha Rahman is closing the gap. Every time they have a new drop of mail-in ballots, she takes a bigger chunk out of Pratt's lead, to the point now that Las Vegas, according to the prediction markets, now say that Rahman has a 60% chance of finishing second, and that Spencer Pratt only has a 39% chance of finishing second. Listen now to President Trump. He's sounding the alarm. They're going to try to steal it in California. Roll cut 2, Mike.
You see that's what's happening in California. They're rigging the election. Now, maybe we caught them, and maybe they won't be able to get away with it. They tried with me. They did it successfully the second time. The third time, we made it too big to rig. Too many votes. They couldn't do it. They can only go. They sort of gave up at about 9:07 when they got slaughtered with the votes that came in. But no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. So we're being very progressive. And we just don't want cheating in our elections. And you see it happening in California. Those numbers are coming down rapidly. They found a lot of mail-in ballots last night, shockingly. So we don't want that.
They're finding more. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. I want to make one final quick point, and then I want to go to the blazing phone lines. But before I do, I want to wish a very happy... Your son, Ethan, reached out to me and told me that it's going to be your birthday this Sunday, June 7th. And so I want to wish you a very happy, healthy birthday. You have a wonderful son. He loves you very, very much. Lisa is a longtime loyal listener of the Kuhner Report, and I really appreciate your support, Lisa. And again, really, honestly, a happy birthday from me to you. And Ethan, if you're listening, please treat your mom to a nice dinner and a nice cake with a candle on it. Okay, treat her right. She deserves it. So, Lisa, again, happy birthday. Okay, my friends, here's what they're doing. This is what they're trying to clearly set up. They don't want Spencer Pratt to make it to the runoff against that, incompetent, disaster, loser of a mayor, Karen Bass, because they'd have to have another debate, at least one, if not two. He would destroy her again, and he would have 5 more months to continue to just hammer her on high taxes, on how Hollywood is circling the drain because business investment is fleeing Los Angeles, how even Hollywood now is starting to feel the effect. Hollywood is slowly dying. How the city is overrun with drugs, homeless encampments, illegal immigrants, crime. Los Angeles is now becoming a third world dump. And Spencer Pratt is killing her on the issues. So now they have to steal it from him. And how do you steal it? Mail-in ballots. And you just keep counting. If it takes a week, if it takes 2 weeks, look, they're coming out even saying it may take 3 weeks. Who the hell takes 3 weeks to decide an election? In other words, we're going to keep counting until what they did to Trump in 2020. We're going to keep counting until we get the votes that we need to defeat Spencer Pratt. Because you see, if you actually had a Karen Bass, Spencer Pratt runoff, then the people of Los Angeles, Angelinos as they're called, would have a viable alternative, a real choice. And they could break the stranglehold that the Democrats have, not just on Los Angeles, but ultimately on California. They can't have that. No one can challenge their power. So what they'd rather have is essentially a former communist, Karen Bass, versus a communist Democrat, an open Mamdani communist Democrat like Nitha Rahman. And so every 6 to 8 hours, new batch of mail-in ballots come in, and it's just Shazam. It's a miracle. You know, if I were them, I'm just, not that I would ever steal an election, you know that. But if I were them, throw in 5 or 10 Spencer Pratt ballots in there. You know, I mean, even Stalin, when he stole elections, it was always 98.5. Instead, it's, I'm not kidding, 0, 0, 0 for Spencer Pratt. And Rahman is just gaining and gaining and gaining until she passes him. She comes in second, and then bye-bye, Spencer. Have a nice life. Go back to MTV and that reality show that you had. And then the choice is going to be either you want a former commie or a real commie. Take your pick. Take your pick. Communism light or the real deal. Take your pick. That's why we need the Save America Act. Mail-in balloting is a disaster. It is rife with fraud. It is how the Democrats cheat. And that's why, by the way, they never want to purge the voting rolls. So they can have people vote twice, 3 times, 4 times, as many times as they need. And of course, LA, inundated, swamped with illegals. They can always go. What do you need? Another 100,000, 200,000, 300,000? How many votes you need, we can deliver. And so, Steve Hilton, good luck. You worked your ass off. Congratulations. Now you're lucky if you finish second. Good luck. Because I think they're going to steal it from Steve Hilton, potentially now, for the governorship, the gubernatorial runoff. And Spencer Pratt's in big trouble now in L.A. Hopefully he can hang on. I hope he does. And Trump is warning L.A., we're watching. We're watching. So they got to be careful how they steal this. But make no mistake about it. They are cheating, and they are trying to steal this right underneath our nose. And this is why we can't stop the Democrats. You can't beat an enemy when you have traitors who keep stabbing you in the back. Every Republican should have voted for the SAVE Act. Instead, 4 of them, 4, gave the proverbial blank you to 80% of American voters. 80%. Democrats, rank-and-file Democrats, support the SAVE Act. Independents support the SAVE Act. Republicans support the SAVE Act. I'm talking about numbers in the high 70s and 80s. Nothing has unified the country. There's no other piece of legislation that comes close that has unified the country. When you say, should there be voter ID in elections? Yes. should you be required to show proof of citizenship in order to register to vote? In other words, can you prove to us that you're an American? I'm just going to take your what? I'm going to take your word for it? The answer is overwhelmingly yes. Should mail-in balloting be strictly limited to people in the military who serve overseas, people who are disabled or very sick or unable, legitimate medical reasons? It's very difficult to impossible to go to the polls. Yes. But outside of these few exceptions, you don't just do what they're doing in California, give out mail-in ballots like they're candy. Mail-in balloting is the key to the Democrats' power. That combined with illegal aliens. You take those two things away, they're finished. Paper ballots, same-day voting, one day, we count the results like they do in Zimbabwe, like they do in Botswana, like they do in Moldova. Okay, this is not too hard. And guess what? By about midnight, you have a winner. And you know who's second and you know who's third. But not with the Democrats. Elections go on until they get their desired results. 617-266-6868. You want to know why Republicans don't win? Because we have traitors and Judases among us who keep betraying us over and over and over for their 30 pieces of silver. All right, 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Let me ask all of you the ultimate question. What should we do about these rhino Republicans? And is there any way to pass the SAVE Act before November? Because if California is a bellwether, they're going to try to steal the elections for the midterms like they're stealing California right now. Mike, who do you want me to go to first? Susie in Georgia. You're going to kick us off, Susie. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Good
Hi,
morning,
Susie.
fellow patriots in Kuhner country. This is absolutely appalling. We need to go back in history. All right, in 1775, it only took 3% of the population to overthrow that lunatic King George. Now, we the people at 80% should be able to pull something as common sense and basic as the SAVE Act over the line in 2026. Okay? This is unacceptable.
Susie, you are not 100, but 1,000% correct. Let me, I got to go to a hard break. I want to go right back to Susie in Georgia. She was on absolute fire. Two, I guess, and they're both interrelated now. What do we do about the fact that the rhino Republicans, I call them, Judas or Vichy Republicans, however you want to call them, but they have betrayed us again. They have stabbed us in the back again on the SAVE Act, effectively killing it in the Senate. What do we do? They are obviously collaborating with the Democrats, colluding to prevent election integrity, voter ID, and proof of citizenship. And many of you are texting and emailing the Kuhner man saying, but Jeff, isn't it already obviously a law that you have to be a citizen to vote? Yes. But they're not enforcing it. They're not, in other words, they're not requiring people show proof that they're a citizen. They're just giving people the benefit of the doubt, i.e. the illegals. That's why the Democrats are going ballistic over the SAVE Act. If you have to show proof of citizenship, do you know how many voters that this, that strips away from the Democrats? For example, Spencer Pratt would be leading in L.A. Steve Hilton would likely be the next governor of California. Either Mike Minogue or Brian Shortsleeve would probably defeat Healy in November here. It changes everything. And that's why it is such a betrayal of such momentous proportions. And they delivered the knife yesterday. Now, and just to prove the point that we're trying to make about the importance of the SAVE Act, is you're looking at California, and Tuesday night, everyone says, what's the story? Steve Hilton, he's in the lead. My God, in liberal, deep blue California. And all of a sudden now, it's mail-in ballot after mail-in ballot and, batch after batch. And all of a sudden now, they're saying, can Steve Hilton even make the runoff? Same thing, ditto for Spencer Pratt. It's right there, as Trump said himself. They're trying to rig and steal it in California right now. And there's no voter ID. There's no proof of citizenship. And it's just mail-in, it's universal mail-in balloting. And the ballots are flying in. And so Susie in Georgia asked the ultimate question. Our 250th anniversary of 1776 of July 4th is less than a month away. We didn't put up with a crazy king. 80% of us want the SAVE Act and election integrity, and the politicians are spitting in our faces? It's unacceptable. Susie, please pick up where you left off.
Jeff, it's simple. We, the people, are entitled to the SAVE Act. We, the people, are entitled to voter integrity and to know that it is only American-born citizens verified that are voting. We, the people, demand the SAVE Act to be passed. The SAVE Act, in reality, should have been passed long by now. It should have been passed, it should have been codified into law, and it should have been done before July 4th, 2026, our 250th birthday. There is no excuse for this. There is no explanation for this. And I'm sick of the treason. This is treason. They are deliberately working against our country. They're trying to dismantle our country. They want our country gone because it's a globalist. This all goes back to the global elites. Our Constitution, the strongest Constitution in the world, is our backbone. And they are constantly attacking it and trying to dismantle it. We, the people, demand the SAVE Act be passed and codified into law, cut and dry, no negotiation, no compromise.
Susie, you are 1 million, not 100, not 1,000 even. You're 1,000,000% correct. I want to read to you two messages I got. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man 70470 70470. This is from 781. I want to read both to you. They're both short, and I want to get your reaction. I want to get everyone's reaction. 781, Jeff, you said it. The SAVE Act is the hill Democrats are willing to die on, and Rhino Republicans are willing to sell us on. And this is from Larry in Arkansas. Jeff, I wanted to get a $100 Dunkin' Donuts gift card. I don't know if it's for a friend or whoever. $100 Dunkin' Donuts gift card. He said, Jeff, I had to show ID to get a Dunkin' Donuts gift card for coffee and donuts. He said, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I have to show ID. And Larry's Larry. He's a great guy. He's a law-abiding, a former Air Force veteran. Yeah, sure. Here's my driver's license here. Knock yourself out, But, his point is, I got to show ID to get a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. But I'm not required to show ID to vote? The country's gone mad. My question to you, these 4 rhinos, and there are others, they had others lined up. They could have gone more. They just took 4, but they could have gone, the bench is even deeper. They could have gone 6, maybe even 7 if they needed it. We look at their bank account, Susie, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. These rhinos. Tillis is retiring. He's done by the end of this year. He's already got a very cushy job lined up with the Chamber of Commerce. You look at others. McConnell has made almost $100 million now, him and his wife, with their company trading with China. You look at all of them. They're all getting paid. Do we have crooked, corrupt politicians, especially among the Republican establishment, who are essentially now bought and paid for? Is that what we're staring at? That we have politicians now who are being paid to betray the voters and to betray our republic. What say you?
And there is no accountability, and there are no consequences to it. And we, the people, are fed up with this. This is why I say we need to start prosecuting. This is treason against the nation, and we need to bring it. We need to bring the trials in military tribunals so that we actually get accountability. This is ridiculous. I opened a Harris Teeter account the other day just to get discounts on my shopping. And I had to show my driver's license. Harris Teeter is a food store. It's like Market Basket or Shaw's or whatever. But to open up an account just to get discounts for the food that I'm shopping for, I had to show my driver's license. Again, I did it willingly because I have nothing to hide. I'm an American citizen. You know, I was born in Burbank, California. I'm a native Californian. And I am so ashamed at how has devolved into literally a third world. I've been watching these elections between Hilton and Spencer Pratt like a vulture because, again, I'm a native Californian. And it's so sad to see how our country has devolved. We, the people, need to get a hold of this. We, the people, need to stand up. This is our how many countries have had 250 years, but how many countries have had a constitution for 250 years?
Oh, that's a great point. Oh, that's a brilliant point. Susie, listen, you're killing it today. Susie, thank you so much for that call. And look, this is the thing. This is what's very dangerous. You live in Los Angeles. Let's just keep it to, she's right about California and Steve Hilton completely. But let's just keep it just to Los Angeles, just for our, just for simplicity's sake. You're tired of seeing homeless encampments now as far as the eye can see. You see video after video, businesses being stolen, looted. They're going in, these homeless people, many of them are drug addicts. They come into all these businesses, steal merchandise, threaten the owners, threaten the customers. Crime is everywhere. Forgive me, they're defecating, urinating everywhere. You've got used needles everywhere. And people are just fed up. Illegals everywhere. You can barely hear English in many parts of LA. It's like you're in a foreign country. And they finally say, look, we've had it. We're going to go for an independent. And Spencer Pratt is running as a centrist. Basically, I'm going to clean up the streets, clean up the drugs, fill the potholes, and stop wildfires from destroying large sections of the city. That's it. That's it. A traditional mayor. That's it. And I'm just going to do basic mayor things. Basic municipal services. That's it. That's what I'm running on. And they go, yeah, he's our guy. And suddenly, and he runs, by the way, a flawless campaign. And then he debates the current mayor, Karen Bass, that lunatic, former Black Panther. And he annihilates her to the point that even liberals are saying, what a campaign this guy has run. Even they say, it's like circles. He just keeps running circles around her. She's not in his league politically. So he does everything right. On election night, somehow she's still ahead, fine. But he finishes second. There's going to be a runoff. We're going to have a real election now, a real choice, a time for choosing. Do you want to continue the last 15, 20 years? You want to go all the way down the toilet? Or do you want to bring back, turn back the clock to when LA used to be a great city? In other words, we can undo the last 25, 30 years and this decline. And everybody on election night says, wow, Spencer Pratt, congratulations, man, you did it. And it's less than 3 days later. And suddenly now, the communist, the council member, look it up, don't take my word for it, on election night was crying. I'm not kidding. Like, how could I be in third? I'm a commie. I'm in California and LA. This is my stronghold. And the Democrat Grand Poobah said, relax. As Stalin famously said, it's not who votes that counts, is those who count the votes. That's what counts. We're counting the votes. Relax. There's going to be no Spencer Pratt, and the citizens, the voters, be damned. It's going to be our runoff, rigged, controlled by us. Where's the Department of Justice? Where's the Federal Election Commission? We're going to just allow this to happen? One of the biggest cities in the United States, we're just going to let them steal an election? One of the biggest state in the union, we're going to let them steal the governor's race? Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Lou.
What I saw yesterday was a tale of two parties. You had Thune. Now, what Thune did is basically he wanted to make it so he had enough votes to lose, not to win. He finally got to the point where he had enough votes to lose. I mean, a few weeks ago, he did have Collins and maybe another one on his side, and then he could have had Vance put him over the top. I remember that. It was like even a month or 2 months ago that they had that. But no, he wanted to make sure that it lost. Well, on the other side, the other party, I saw Schumer is endorsing Graham Plattner. Now, come on. This is how united they are and how divided we the Republicans are. And I don't understand why, even if they hated Trump, even if they absolutely hate Trump, even if they all hated Trump, this is for the American people. It's not for Trump. This is for saving the votes and the dignity of citizenship in the United States. It's not about Trump. It's about protecting our elections, the most sacred right we have, the right to vote. And it's not about them, but they decided to throw that away. They could have run on that. They could have run ads in favor of the SAVE Act, just like Spencer Pratt runs his ads in L.A. They could have won over 80, maybe more than 80% of the public, but they decided not to do it. They decided Thune decided that he wanted to defeat this act. He got enough votes to do it. It's disgusting what happened. I think Susie said the right thing before. She had a wonderful call. And when you look at what's happening these days, just even around the world, you were talking about the NOAC thing the other day. Britain is falling apart because the Conservative Party fell apart in England. And look what's happening to them there. And in France, Paris was burning. Do we want this kind of stuff to happen here because they're going to allow the Democrats to cheat on every election and pretend that it's fair? I mean, come on. This is ridiculous what's happening to the country these days. I pray to God that God saves America. I mean, that's who we have to really go to try to save America. But on the other hand, there's all this other stuff going on in the country. Have you seen some of these candidates that the Democrats are running? And they're going to probably put through, like this guy in New Jersey, this Hamaway. I mean, some of these other ones, Plattner. Did Susan Collins just seal her own fate and put Plattner into the Senate? I mean, what the heck is going on here? I mean, these Republicans are sellouts to the citizens of the United States, and as I've said many times before, I didn't see any of these other big mouths in there pushing Thune, the guys like Kennedy or Hawley or even Cruz or any of them. They should have been out there outspoken saying we have to have this act. we need to have this act. We need to push this act. Instead, they have their little committees, and they'll look good in the committees, but they're going to be selling out the country. 250 years. Are we going to last past 251? I mean, I don't know. I was reading the other day about like the fall of Rome. The fall of Rome was when the barbarians took over, and basically the Democrats want the barbarians to come in here and take over. That's exactly it. I mean, we go back even further than that. That's exactly it. They'll probably even have in the future somebody who's a non-citizen like Odysseus, we took over being the emperor in Rome. They'll probably have somebody like a non-citizen like Mondami be able to run for president. I mean, they already had Obama, but they'll have somebody like that run for president. I mean, this is an
oh no, that's inevitable. No, you're dead on. I'm not really trying to pour gasoline on the fire. I'm telling you the truth. Give them another 10, 15 years, and they will say, forget non-citizens voting. They will say non-citizens should be president of the United States. And they'll pass some kind of an amendment, and that's what we'll have. That's what they want. It's clear. It's just, it takes time. They can't do everything overnight. And look, you touched on something. I saw that unbelievable race up in New Jersey, from the primary on Tuesday. Hamaway. He is a jihadist linked. Remember that famous sheikh, the blind sheikh, who launched the first Islamist attack on the World Trade Center, killing 6 Americans, injuring hundreds in 1993. And he was one of his top political advisors, spiritual and political advisors. And this guy Hamaway was caught. They were wiretapping the sheikh. He was, masterminding this Islamic terrorist ring in New York and in New Jersey. Hamaway was with him, and the sheikh was telling him, when you go into the U.S. military, because Hamaway ended up going into the U.S. military for a while. He served in Iraq, believe it or not. He said, you should turn your gun on Americans. That's what you need to do. You need to turn your gun on Americans. And when the sheikh was under trial, had his trial, it was Hamaway who went and gave a character witness testimony to the sheikh, saying he's a great man. He's a learned man. He's a wonderful Muslim scholar. What are you talking about? He's a terrorist. Meanwhile, they have him on tape helping to plot attacks on the United States of America and on Egypt, where he was kicked out of the Middle East. So they were very angry at the time with Hosni Mubarak, the then leader of Egypt. And so they were talking about how somebody needs to kill Mubarak and launch bomb attacks and explosive attacks on Egypt to take out Mubarak and his people. And this is the guy that the Democrats now have put up as their nominee in New Jersey? And you ask yourself, they keep getting more and more strident, militant, extremist, and radical. It's it's Platner, it's this guy, from out of New Jersey, Hamaway. It's either Karen Bass or now they want Rahman, who's an out and out communist with hammer and sickle, the whole thing. And you're saying, but we're now talking maybe 10%, 15% support this. It doesn't matter. If you can just keep with the mail-in balloting and you can just keep rigging and stealing elections, what do you care what the people think or what the people want? That's why, if you notice, when Trump won, what does the opposition party normally do? They begin to moderate, right? They have an assessment. They reassess. They go, no, that issue killed us. Oh, the border, obviously. No, we got hammered on the border. We got to recalibrate. We got to change our position on this. Democrats don't change. Why haven't they changed a single position? In fact, if anything, they get even more radical, more extreme. Why? Because what they concluded was we didn't work hard enough to steal it. So now we're going to make sure that no one wins an election who's a Republican or MAGA or a conservative or anybody who can really challenge our rule. Because now we're going to be perfect in how we execute our fraud and our corruption and our stealing. So the lesson they took was they're never going to overwhelm us at the polls again. because we're going to have enough backup mail-in ballots. So, and now they're using this on Spencer Pratt. So he wins by 300,000. We'll get 400,000. Don't worry about it. That's why, to me, the SAVE Act was one of the, if not the most important piece of Trump's agenda. The border, stopping it, no question. Deportations, no question. But right after the border and stopping this invasion of illegals, you got to have free, fair voting, a voting system. You got to have election integrity, because you won't have a country or a republic, because they'll just keep stealing election after election. Alex in Burlington. Thanks for holding, Alex, and welcome.
I just have a quick question. Isn't the Supreme Court due to make a ruling this month on mail-in ballots?
I believe so. Yes, Alex.
Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to know. Also, who's due to replace the senators that are leaving? Besides McConnell and Tillis.
Yeah, well, McConnell, we have a good chance of having a MAGA conservative replace him. Tillis is going to be a dogfight. It looks like the former Democrat governor, Roy Cooper, is leading in the polls. So actually, that may even be a flip for the Democrats. We'll see how things turn out. So and then Susan Collins looks like she's going to go up against Graham Plattner. To me, it's almost like pick your poison. I would vote personally. I would vote for Collins. I can't stand her, obviously, but he's a Nazi. I mean, he's a Nazi. I don't know what else to say. So, I wouldn't want to be a voter in Maine. And Murkowski, she's got this machine up in Alaska, and it's very tough to dislodge her. And she takes a lot of money. She takes a lot of money. The globalists love her. Wall Street loves her. The Chamber of Commerce loves her. So we're not organized. That's our problem as Republicans and conservatives. The left is, we're not. And we always fight amongst ourselves. We're always divided. So either we're not galvanized, we're not organized, and when we are, we tend to bicker amongst ourselves. The left, they're thick as thieves. I have to give the devil their due. I mean, even on Plattner, there's more revelations coming out. The stuff that's come out about him, even more. Apparently now you have 3 former lovers. Not 1, not 2, but 3 former lovers who said, no, of course he knew that Nazi tattoo was an SS tattoo. In fact, he called it my Totenkopf. He bragged about it. He bragged about it for years. They're testifying and saying, they're giving interviews and saying he physically abused us. One woman said he would twist her arm behind her back, and then he threw her into the bedroom and then locked the door and wouldn't let her come out. Another one said he would violently shake her shoulders to the point that she had bruises and marks. This is all coming out. Another one, this is the one, this guy's a creep. He's not right in the head. He would say repeatedly, if someone was to break into their apartment, that, quote, he would rape the burglar, that he would rape him. And then he said, it's not because I'm gay or it's a sexual thing, his words. He said, no, it's a power domineering thing. This guy fantasizes about raping burglars, male burglars, because he wants to sexually dominate them. And then another girlfriend said he had an AR-15. He just left it lying around in his apartment, and he would then watch TV with an axe, and he'd be sharpening. It's like out of a horror movie. Like, the villain, the murderer in the horror movie. He sits and he's sharpening his axe, watching this, and going on about, if someone breaks into the apartment, I'm going to sodomize him. I'm going to rape him. but it's not a gay or a sexual thing. It's a domineering thing. And the New York Times actually blew that story wide open. So, and they're still backing Plattner. Ed Markey's backing Plattner. They're all backing Elizabeth Warren. He's my kind of man. So you have a monster, a toxic monster, who I think has serious psychological problems. Borderline psychopath. He's a psychopath. And by the way, that tattoo, that SS tattoo, that's the tattoo, not just of those that ran exterminations of the Jews, the Nazi concentration camp guards. That was their tattoo. That's the tattoo he had on his chest for 18 years and bragged about it. They love him. They'd never throw this guy under the bus. More money, more support. They're going to try to steal it from Susan Collins in Maine. That's how the Democrats roll. Our side, you just put cash on the table and that's it. I'm telling you that if you want to know the downfall of the uniparty, the political class, especially the Republicans, greed. Greed. That's all. It's just pure greed. So you put them in a paper bag or in a bank account or in a lucrative job or whatever they've promised them. Fees for speaking or whatever, some book contract that he'll make millions and the PAC or the lobbying group buys all the books. Whatever their deal is. It's just, you put money on it, it's 30 pieces of silver. It goes back to the Bible. And they'll sell everybody and anything out. And that's the problem. Rhinos are for sale. And they just sold us out on the most important thing. And they did it right to our face. So until we get organized and until we say enough is enough, it's just going to continue. Alex, thank you very much for that call. I appreciate it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Now's the time to do it. Okay, speaking of California, already apparently the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles is looking at the fraud. It's very suspicious. All these mail-in ballots now pouring in the last 48 to 72 hours. And all of a sudden now Spencer Pratt and Steve Hilton, they're losing. They're losing and the Democrats are gaining. So Pratt in particular, every drop of ballots, he seems to be, losing more support, and the third place communist Democrat is gaining on him. So something is up in California. Voter fraud is on. They're going to try to steal it. Fingers crossed. Hopefully they won't. But already now the feds are investigating and they smell a rat. Now, I want to ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. Have you ever witnessed voter fraud? I'm just curious. Have you ever seen it or heard about it? Have you ever experienced or witnessed voter fraud? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER. You can also vote via X, and yesterday was the day to follow me on X. And I'm going to get to that bombshell story very soon, I promise. But if you haven't, go to my X account. You want to talk about fraud? Oh, you got to check it out. Anyway, very active on X again last night. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. I want to read this from 603 because I think it sums up perfectly what we've been talking about for about the last hour and a half. Jeff, regarding the SAVE Act, it is the ultimate catch-22 because we are relying on the on the very same criminals who are the reason for the act in the first place to be the ones to pass the act. And with just enough traitors in our own party to vote against us. And it's never going to happen. We'd be foolish to expect the criminals in office who rely on fraud to rein themselves in and put an end to their own criminality. And it's almost impossible to vote out these traitors because, again, the elections are rigged. If a referendum were put on the ballot nationwide, yes, then maybe, just maybe, we could get it pushed through. But even then, without the act already being in place, they'd be working overtime to try to rig it and steal that from us. I think the statistical impossibilities that we are now seeing them blatantly pull off in California, and that we also saw in 2020 with Trump, when truckloads of ballots showing up in the middle of the night marked 100% for Biden to fraudulently steal the election from Trump, testify to that fear. And this is what makes decent American voters just throw their hands up. And what's so dangerous about that, Jeff, is that then people start thinking the only way out of this is another 1776. That's not hyperbolic. That's reality. And that's what I was saying at the last segment. People are just going to blow. If you're not enabling them to enact peaceful democratic change through the ballot box, say what they're doing now in California, especially in LA, because you keep stealing and rigging elections, you're putting people's backs against the wall. Eventually, you're going to get violence. You're going to get an uprising because people can only take it for so long. And as 603 put it, it's going to be another 1776. And that's what the Democrats don't quite understand. When I say they're playing with fire, I'm telling you, they're playing with fire. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Mike, who do you want me to go to next? Larry in Uxbridge. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome. Larry? All right, let's see if we can reconnect with Larry. Aaron in the great state of Nevada. Thanks for holding, Aaron, and welcome.
Jeff, it is my 44th birthday week, and it is my one-year anniversary of living in Nevada. I owe iHeartRadio a thank you. I actually took one of your advertisers, Indeed.com, to get the job I have now. So I want to let you know I'm supporting your paycheck.
Oh, wow. Well, happy birthday, Aaron, and congratulations on your one-year anniversary, my friend.
Jeff, I was going to call you last week, and I was going to make a prediction that Plattner would be within single digits of Bass. And on election night, I was
you mean
cheering.
Pratt.
Sorry.
You mean Pratt, right? Spencer Pratt?
Sorry, Pratt, yeah. I
ahead.
said, yeah, Pratt's trailing by 4 points. And then I saw the election results yesterday, and Rahman went from 19% to 24%, and he went from 34% all the way down to 26%. I was so angry, I registered to vote in Nevada yesterday. Several points, and then I have a question for you at the end of my rant. By the way, do we need to go to commercial break? Because that happens a lot.
No, go ahead. The floor is yours. Let her rip, Aaron.
First of all, Jeff, I owe you an apology. I called you 5 years ago because you kept going on and on about the 2020 election. I said, there's no question that there were shenanigans. But I said to you, Jeff, let it go. It was a one-time thing. It was COVID. They used COVID to use the mail-in ballots. They're never going to do it again. I was wrong. You know, I hope Pratt and Hilton come in third or fourth place because it'll be so obvious at this point in time. Jeff, there was an internet meme that said, have you ever looked at somebody and you just knew immediately that they voted for Kamala Harris? And in the meme, it was a man in a dress wearing a COVID mask with purple hair. The New York Post released a video where they went to the L.A. County voting counting system. Go watch that video. Everybody there looks like they work for the DMV. They all are Democrats. By the way, there was like 20 of them just standing around just chit-chatting. Like, well, no wonder the votes aren't being counted. They're just talking. I have a message for I didn't even know the SAVE Act failed until you said this 30 minutes ago. So I have a message for the Republican parties who are stabbing us in the back. If you guys think you are safe from the Democrats or the left because you vote for the Democrats every once in a while, you are wrong, my friend. Paul Krugman, the guy who won the Nobel Peace Prize, he just went on TikTok yesterday saying, when Trump is gone, we're going to purge MAGA. We're going to make the Republican Party extinct. We must get rid of them. I want his Nobel Peace Prize returned. He's calling for our extermination. I finally cracked the code, Jeff. I know why Republicans love to lose elections. Because when they lose, they figure, whatever, I'll just go back to Wall Street. I'll just go back to the corporations. I'll just go back to the greed is good. You fools, you foolish fools. Wall Street is woke now. The corporations all work for the woke left now. You're not going to go back to the private sector. They won't hire you because you're a cisgendered straight white male. And even to Mitch McConnell and the Republicans who are retiring. Oh, whatever, I'm retiring. You know what's going to happen if the communists take over? One day, Mitch McConnell, a woman who looks like Rachel Maddow with pink hair is going to show up at your door. Hey, Mr. McConnell, how many rooms do you have in your house? 4, but all of my children have moved out. Oh, I see. And she's going to come back with, this is Enrique, Inguenes, and Maria. They're illegal immigrants from Guatemala. They're going to live in your house. And if you complain about it, we're going to take your house away. And, oh, how many cars do you have, Mitch McConnell? Oh, 4? We're going to take 3 of those away and give them to people who don't have cars. So if you think that the Democrats are going to spare you because you didn't like Trump, because you just miss Ronald Reagan so much, you will not be spared either. Now, Jeff, here is my question for you. I want to end this with a question. As you know, England had their own midterm elections, and the Reform Party did very well. Nigel Farage's party won, and they had a big conservative Tea Party rally of their own with Glenn Beck and Nick Shirley. However, Victor Davis Hanson, I don't know if it's Victor Davis Hanson or Kurt Schlichter, they wrote an article on townhall.com where they said, Dear England, too little, too late. Your country's doomed. The Muslims have conquered you. You're beyond saving.
I disagree. If you're asking me, do I agree with them? I don't. I don't think it's too late for Britain. I think if they elect reform in Nigel Farage, so as the Senate voted to kill the Save America Act, which would have required voter ID and proof of citizenship to register to vote. In other words, election integrity. So while the Rhino Republicans were siding with the Democrats to finally kill off the SAVE Act, what do you think the House Republicans and the House Democrats were doing on the other side of Congress? Because, the Uniparty struck a blow against, for voter fraud and against clean, honest elections. Well, as they were screwing us in one chamber, the Uniparty, the Washington elites, were screwing us in the other chamber. They passed a $9 billion aid package for Ukraine. You see how the game works? 80% of Americans support the SAVE Act. Blank you. We're not going to give you what you want. Even though Republicans, Democrats, independents, blacks, whites, Latinos, old, young, women, men, it doesn't matter. Over 3/4 to 85%. And all of these groups support the SAVE Act. It doesn't matter. Okay? Blank you. You're not getting what you want. Only now a small minority of Americans. They are sick of the war in Ukraine with Russia. They want it to end. They're tired of our money going, endlessly into that endless war. But no. The military-industrial complex, they got to make their money. And so let's pour another $9 billion right down a rat hole. So you see how the game is played. It's always the elites against the people. And they're not listening to what the voters and the American people want. It's one big club, and we're not in it. Larry in Uxbridge. Thanks for holding, Larry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Larry.
First of all, if Ronnie doesn't get caller of the week, I think Mike should be tabbed the Rhino of the Jeff Kuhner show.
Oh, I like that. Larry, I like that.
Jeff, talk me off a ledge because I feel like Arthur from Chestnut Hill. He makes me depressed every time I listen to him. What can we do? Can we pass the filibuster? We got to do this, man, or we're going to lose the midterms, and they're going to just go after Trump. I'm sorry to say that, but we got to do something, man. I'm just, for a Friday, I'm kind of depressed. I really am.
Well, look, I know it sounds a bit bizarre. A lot of people say, geez, Jeff, are you just like an eternal optimist? No, I really am a realist. And to me, you can't change anything until you confront the truth. And I really believe sunlight is the best disinfectant. For me, there's never bad news. When you get the truth, that clarifies things, and then you can take decisive action. So we know who the traitors are. We know who we have to get rid from our party. We know who to vote out in primary. We have clarity now, absolute clarity. And we also now see that the Democrats are not going to stop cheating, which means we can be ready in order to counter. So, no, if I were Donald Trump, I would declare a national emergency. There's many things he can do, but I would declare a national emergency and say that we're going to have no mail-in ballots, or pretty much significantly limit mail-in ballots. And the Supreme Court is going to rule on this very soon, on mail-in balloting, before the November election. And I think we're just going to have to now make the SAVE Act our litmus test. It's just very simple. Will you vote for the SAVE Act, yes or no? If the answer is no, you're never going to get our vote. I don't care what the other issue is. I don't care if you agree with somebody 99% of the time. If that's the one thing they won't vote for us, we get somebody else. It's going to have to be that way. It's sort of, everybody's talking about our 250th anniversary, and of course, because it's less than a month away. The question in 1776 was, were you for or against the British Crown? That's the question. Were you for or against the British monarchy and the continued oppression of the 13 colonies? Yes or no? The key question during the Civil War and the buildup was, were you for or against slavery? The key question in the 1930s was, were you for or against Hitler? The key question, especially by the time Reagan got to power, because the Soviets had grown so big and so strong, was, were you for or against the expansion of Soviet power? Like, there were just, every 30, 40 years, there's a seminal issue that is the dividing line in politics. That's a sort of a watershed. This is now our 1776. Are you for or against voter fraud? I.e., are you for or against the Save America Act? Either you're with us or you're against us. So we now have to be very clear who our friends and who our allies are and who our enemies are. Tom Tillis should be run out of Washington on a rail. He should be radioactive and toxic. He should never get a job again. I'm serious. If some lobbying firm picks him up, Republicans should say, and we should insist, if you want to hire Tom Tillis, that's your right. You're not going to get a single government contract. don't even come to us and make a phone call. Because he's the modern day equivalent of Benedict Arnold. It's the same thing for Mitch McConnell. It's the same thing for Susan Collins. It's the same thing for Lisa Murkowski. And by the way, if we just had a different Senate majority leader, I mean, you want an option, a solution, and I think Trump's going to have no choice. Because the big news, I'll tell you the big news. We can always vote again on the SAVE Act. I mean, they voted on it. Thune now said they're not going to touch it anymore. But, you know, you get a new Senate majority leader, or you put enough pressure on John Thune, he can put it up again in a month or 2 months or 3 months. You can vote on something over and over again. No, the big story is that now every Democrat in the House of Representatives and every Democrat in the Senate have now officially confirmed, listen to this, that the filibuster is, quote, an antiquated, outdated tool. What they're saying is, we're going to nuke it. We're going to get rid of it. The moment we get power, it's gone. And everything is going to be 50+1. That's the big story now. The Democrats have now told us, as clearly as they can possibly tell us, and their voters, we come back to power, we win in November, we're ending that filibuster once and for all. No more 60 votes in the Senate, 50+1, raw majority, ram everything through. Pack the Supreme Court, abolish the Electoral College, reopen the borders, amnesty for illegals, defund ICE, defund the police. Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. are going to be states. Bang, 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 bang. That's going to be their agenda, and Trump's going to be the only one standing in their way. So what we need to do is make a very simple counter move. I mean, it's as obvious as the sun is going to rise. To John Thune, I'm giving you one last chance. Are you going to nuke the filibuster? His answer, no. You're out. You get 5 Senate Republicans. That's all you need. You challenge Thune as Senate Majority Leader. He's out. And put J.D. Vance. You can do that. He can be both Vice President and the leader of the Senate. He can do both. It's been done, and constitutionally it's legal. Don't worry. He'll get the SAVE Act passed. We blow the filibuster, 50+1, and don't worry. We'll make them an offer they can't refuse. And you're going to get your 50+1. Not just on the SAVE Act, but on issue after issue after issue. And they can't steal or cheat in November. But that means taking the gloves off. That's what that means. You have to be willing to take the gloves off. Now, at a bare minimum, Thune has to go as Senate Majority Leader. Because believe it or not, we had the votes a couple weeks ago for the SAVE Act. He just waited and waited and waited for someone like Susan Collins, who's looking at the polls, and she fears she's going to get wiped out by Graham Plattner. So she figures now she's got to try to appeal to even more anti-Trumpers. And that's why she's decisively turned on the SAVE Act. So what I'm saying is this was all orchestrated by John Thune to get the rhinos to vote with the Democrats to sink it. So let's get rid of John Thune, and a lot of our problems are solved. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. It's 8 o'clock. You know what that means. Kuhner's Call Log, Caller of the Week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Anthony.
This isn't partly Trump derangement syndrome. This is totally 100% all Trump derangement syndrome, because if it was a Democrat in office, we would be having none of this. And as far as the Rutland thing goes, don't call it a parade, call it a protest. And make it a protest, and they can't stop a protest because we have a constitutional right to peaceful assembly, and they cannot stop that. So if I was the people of Rutland, and I would put it right in front of the town hall, and I would invite as many people that wanted to come and turn it into a multi-event. Put up signs saying that you're disgusted by the Democrats in this town hall. Stop trying to stop our celebrations. We won't have any of that. Here we are. Try and stop us, because you can't stop a protest. The Democrats have shown us that you could even riot and they won't stop you. So be peaceful and go protest this decision to stop the 4th of July celebration.
Stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Be here every weekday on the Kuhner Report between 6 and 10 a.m. And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please don't be a stranger. Call again. And God bless all of you. Seriously. God bless Kuhner Country and our wonderful callers. I know many of you were wanting Ronnie to be the caller of the week. You know, I kind of feel bad because I think I jinxed. In fact, I know I jinxed Ronnie. The moment I said to me that was the caller of the week, Mike had him on the list. He had it down to 3 finalists. And the moment I said, Mike, I think that's the caller of the week, he just took his pen and he crossed it out. You know, so he's like our resident rhino. You know, once in a while, you're like, whoa, what's that? Whoa, what's that sharp pain in my back? That's Mike sticking in the dagger. You know, but Anthony's always a superb caller. I mean, he's a perennial. Every time he calls, he's a candidate. So actually, I'm also very happy that Anthony got that privilege this week. Congratulations, Anthony. 617-266-6868. Okay, big bombshell story. I just want to take a few more calls, and then we're obviously going to go to that one. What's clear, this is the theme of today's show, is that our ruling class, our ruling elites, are refusing to comply with the will of the people. And these are the same idiots that go on about no kings. And yet the only one that are denying the express wishes and will of the people of the United States or the people of Massachusetts, depending on the story, are them. And they're doing it to keep themselves in power. And they're doing it to further their corruption, their fraud, their thievery, and their greed. And soon we're going to have to ask ourselves, who truly runs America? Who rules here? The people through their elected representatives, or this permanent Washington uniparty that just keeps spitting in our face and ignoring our wishes and ignoring our will and ignoring voters because they believe their power supersedes our sovereignty, and it doesn't. This is our country, and they answer to us, and it's time we let them know their time is coming to an end. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Jerry on Cape Cod. Comrade, thanks for calling and welcome. Comrade, how are you, my friend?
I have a stick with Zelensky's head on it. I would love to see that, Jeff.
Well, we're going to give him another $9 billion, Larry. So, sorry, Jerry, Comrade Jerry, forgive me. He's getting another $9 billion, so he'll have more money to steal. But go ahead, comrade.
what needs to happen here, and I know President Trump's people listen to your show all the time, there has to be an executive order passed by the president. The president's national security emergency for elections. The hell with Thune. The hell with those useless peckerheads in Congress, in the Senate. They're useless. They're useless. And they're our enemy. Jeff, he has to declare a national emergency through that executive order, mandating voter ID, proof of citizenship, ban all mail-in ballots except for the military. And paper ballots replace the machines, and they all have to be hand-counted and certified. It's the only way around this, Jeff.
Amen. Comrade, I want to ask you, do you think they're going to steal it in California? Do you think they're going to take this thing from Spencer Pratt and Steve Hilton?
Of course they are. Jeff, they're going to steal it here in Massachusetts, too. It's already rigged by Galvin and Healy. She's going to be the governor again. She's going to make sure of that. And she's going to run this state right into a ditch. I'm not going down easy, though. I worked my tail off my whole life so I could live down here on the Cape, Jeff. If she thinks she's going to take that away from me, she's got another thing coming, because I'll go to the mat.
I'm with you. Comrade, as always, thank you very much for that call. No, it's the rubber is hitting the road. Look, let them try to steal well, they are trying, but if they steal California, Trump is not going to take this lightly. He's not a stupid man. He's going to say, they're going to do this to me in November. This is just a taste of what's to come. So if California wants to go down that road, I think you're going to see a massive battle now develop. But look at it from the Democrats' point of view. They have to steal it. You have Spencer Pratt on that ballot. He will destroy Karen Bass. She will be destroyed. You have Steve Hilton in that runoff against that hack, Javier Becerra, that loser. There's no way Becerra's going to win. They can't lose California. They lose California, they lose everything. That's why they have to steal. 617-266-6868. Frank in South Carolina. Thanks for holding, Frank, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Frank?
Good. You know, I'm down here in South Carolina because I left the communist state of Massachusetts. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of people, because I talk to everybody, and everybody that knows me, I can't believe they still remember my name, even down here, even though I've only lived here a short time. But I'll tell you something. I talk to everyone. You know why? Because I give everybody a chance. And I'm going to tell you something. This, where I am now, this location, there's tons and tons of people from New England, New York, California, Illinois, and New Jersey. And guess what? They all love it here. And I'm going to tell you something. A lot of people are talking around here about stolen elections and what you're on topic about. And there's no way that these people would vote for these Democrat insane policies. There's no possible way. No possible way. How could it be? No, it can't be. You know something, Jeff? I don't even want to go to the doctors after what's happened with COVID. I don't want nobody touching me. You get it?
No, look, I hear you. I've become to deeply distrust the medical establishment because they so lied to us under COVID. And it goes to your larger point, Frank. You're absolutely right. You know, as I like to say, you're not 100, you're 1,000% correct. Look, let's just take L.A., again, to keep things simple. Who's going to vote for more homelessness? The city's overrun with homeless encampments. Everybody admits it. Even Karen Bass. She was pressed by reporters saying, well, you promised 4 years ago you were going to turn the tide and reduce homelessness, and it's only exponentially grown. And she said, well, it's a problem that's been going on for 30 years. Well, who's been running L.A. for 30 years? You, the Dems. So who's going to vote for more home? I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're overrunning the city. Who's going to vote for people shooting up on the sidewalk? Drugs everywhere, fentanyl everywhere, crime. People are afraid to walk the streets at night. Hollywood is dying. And I don't mean the product that, Hollywood's movies. I'm talking people are fleeing Hollywood, which is the tax base of LA. It's the heart and soul in terms of the financial heart and soul of Los Angeles. Hollywood directors, Hollywood producers, Hollywood moguls, even Hollywood actors. It's too unsafe. They're fleeing. Okay, we've got callers on the line. Please hang on. I promise. I am going to get to you. But let me just say a couple of things, because this is molto importante. What is now very clear is we need term limits. I think to me now the case for term limits is almost irrefutable. Thune has been in power too long. McConnell should have been gone a long time ago. Lisa Murkowski, she's been there forever. It's a family dynasty. She took over the Senate seat from her old man, from her father. How long is this woman going to be in the Senate? Susan Collins. She's been there forever. Tom Tillis, I know, is term limiting himself. He's retiring, but, I could go on and on. We clearly need term limits. Look at Ed Markey. The last on his job, this loser, Marcula, I want to suck your money. I want to take your blood. He's Ice Cream Ed. The last on his job this guy had was when, 18, 17? With his ice cream truck? Selling ice creams to the kids in the neighborhood? The guy's been sucking off the public teat for the last 60 plus years. The guy's been in power forever. He's been in power longer than most people are alive in the United States. He's been in power longer than I've lived, and I'm 56. So, yeah, we need term limits. There's no question we need term limits. I'm not saying it's going to solve everything, but it's going to solve a lot. Now, just stand back, okay? Just objectively. What is more important than honest, fair, free elections? In a republic, outside of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, obviously, I don't see what is more important. And on an issue where the public is 80% in favor, 80%, not to be a broken record, but it bears repeating, rank and file Democrats, Republicans, independents, men, women, young, old, black, white, brown, Asian, gay, straight, take your pick. 80% want voter ID and proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. Duh. And they won't give it to us. They will not abide by the will of the voters in order to protect their power and their corruption and their fraud. Now, on a micro level, here in Massachusetts, something very similar is taking place. I want all of you to listen. This is now good. It's local. This is going to be a massive national story because of the arrogance of the Democrats. They have now, in my view, they have crossed the line. This is going to be their fatal undoing. As you know, in 2024, it wasn't quite 80%, like with the SAVE Act, but over 72% of voters voted basically for a state doge. They voted in a ballot initiative to audit, a full audit be conducted of the state legislature, in particular, the spending of the state legislature. Where is our taxpayer money going? Who is it going to? Who is it benefiting? Is it being stolen? Is it being siphoned off? Is it being stolen by fraudsters? What's happening and who's benefiting from this? We want, like any company, like other states, like the federal government with Doge, we want an audit. Open up the books. And as you know, and by the way, again, overwhelmingly supported by rank and file Democrats, independents, Republicans, white, black, brown, Asian, male, female, young, old, gay, straight. Same thing as the SAVE Act. Same thing. Broad-based support. It's what the voters want. Why? Because it's our money. So they've been blocking the state auditor, Diana DiZoglio. The Democrats on Beacon Hill, the state legislature, in collusion with both the state attorney general, which is for me incredible, Andrea Campbell, and of course that moonbat governor, Maura Healey, have been stonewalling her now for almost 2 years. The problem is they're losing the PR battle. The public sees it's a cover-up. So you know what they did? 2 days ago, late at night, Democrats on Beacon Hill passed a bill. By the way, all Democrats voted for this. Every single one of them. Passed a bill. I'm going to give you the number. H 5469. H 5469. Read it yourself. Don't take my word for it. It essentially negates the 2024 ballot initiative. It essentially, here's what it says. What it does is, it says it is illegal to conduct an audit of the state legislature, and that the ballot initiative is null and void. They are telling us to our face they will not allow themselves, the Dems. Okay, so quickly, because I want to go back, the lines are on fire. H 5469 was passed overwhelmingly, supermajority vote by the Democrats. They're going to move it now quickly to the Senate. Healy is going to sign it. They want to get it through as quickly as they can. And what it does is it now says that any ballot initiative, if you can believe this, that says you should audit the state legislature and how they spend our money is illegal. And it prevents any audit from taking place. So what they're doing is not just negating and overturning the will of the people. This is clearly anti-democratic. It is clearly authoritarian. These, by the way, are the same clowns that run around, no kings, no kings, no kings. Our democracy's under threat. Yeah. I guess the will of the people means nothing when it comes to opening up the books and exposing Democrat corruption and fraud in this state. Then you have no voice. Then your vote doesn't matter. Then the results can be completely overturned. And what they're doing is, they are obviously, as I said, this is a blatant cover-up. And you have to ask yourself, what are they so afraid of? Because they're clearly petrified. They're absolutely petrified. They will not allow an audit no matter what. No matter what. Now, just so that you know, this is turning for the Democrats into a PR disaster. It's a nightmare. It's a debacle. Because it's such a blatant cover-up. You can't be more clear. The voters voted for an audit overwhelmingly. They won't abide by the audit, and they stonewall and they obstruct and they refuse to comply. Then they elicit the state attorney general, and instead of enforcing the ballot, which is her job and her constitutional responsibility, she sides with the crooks. And they're ferocious in their opposition. They will not allow even a partial audit. And they're launching an all-out campaign against the state auditor, who is a Democrat, by the way, Diana DiZoglio, defaming her, smearing her, libeling her. And as they're losing in the public square, in the battle of public opinion, then they go nuclear. Well, now we're just going to pass a law, forgive me, cover our ass. That's what this law should be called. Forget H5469. It should be HCYA. Cover your ass. There's no way in hell. Now they're saying it's illegal. We will never allow ourselves to be audited by the voters or any outside agency, the state auditor or anybody. So basically, everything is going to be in the dark. It's going to be in the shadows. No transparency. What do you think they're covering up? I'll tell you what they're covering up. If no one else in the media has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. Billions and billions, I believe tens of billions, in rampant, naked corruption, fraud, a lot of it going to illegal aliens like Minnesota and California and other places now that we're seeing everywhere. Kickbacks, payoffs, bribes, family members getting enriched, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and nonprofits who are politically connected, even with family and friends connected to powerful lawmakers on Beacon Hill. And they're giving them billions and billions and billions of our taxpayer dollars. It's theft. That's what they're obviously trying to cover up. It's as clear as day. You have to be honestly a blind fool not to see it. You have to be Bill in Sudbury or Chris in Gloucester not to see it. If everything is on the up and up, what are you afraid of an audit for? Companies have to go through audits. Municipal governments go through audits. Other state governments go through audits. The federal government goes through an audit. Individuals go through audits. Hell, the IRS, what do you think they do? They audit people all the time. But not you crooks up on Beacon Hill? Now, if you were stealing a corporation's money, I'm not advocating for it. That's even one thing. But you're stealing our money. Our taxpayer money. Now, it's not just the massive scale and the scope of the corruption. That's what they're obviously covering up. Okay, and the fraud. What they know is going to happen is if the public knows the extent of the thievery and the stealing and the corruption and the kickbacks and the bribery and the fraud, and saying, this is where my hard-earned taxpayer money's been going for God knows how many years? How far back does this go? Under how many administrations? You're going to see a political revolution in the state of Massachusetts. Just like you would see a political revolution across the entire country. That's what they are afraid of. The peasants are going to pick up their political pitchforks and throw the bums out. All of them. That's why now it's all hands on deck. Now, we can either do two things. We can either let them get away with it again, beat us back again, suppress us again, ignore us again, frankly, violate us and our voting rights again, and they can continue to steal our money, or we can finally say enough is enough. You know, I said the litmus test should be the Save America Act. This audit should be our litmus test right now in Massachusetts. That's our litmus test, period. Are you for or against the audit? That's it. That's the only issue that matters now. No other issue matters. And if you're as clean as you Democrats say you are, and you're not, and you know it, and everybody knows it, you would open up the books. What are you afraid of? Every state rep, every state senator, every official in the Healy administration, the governor, their lines should be melting down, saying, we want an audit, We don't want 5469 to be passed in the Senate or to be signed by Governor Healy. And we should spread this all over social media. I want the national media to be aware of this. I want the world to be made aware of this. I want the Democrats' corruption now and their blatant stonewalling and obstruction, this massive cover-up, to be utterly exposed, unmasked, and I want them to be shamed. Because this is blatant. It's so blatant, frankly, it's insulting. And so one of the things you can do, many things you can do, but one of the things, please go to my X account at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner, at the Kuhner Report. I have my X or whatever, tweet, whatever you call it. It's right there in 4 sentences, laying out exactly what 5467 is, what the Democrats are trying to do, and that the public needs to be aware of it, and we need to stop it. It's our money. It's our republic. It's our future. It's our country. It's our state. If we're not going to fight for it, who will? And if we're not going to do it now, when? When? So I want to ask all of you, because I think now this is the question. What do we do when we have corrupt, treasonous political elites, whether at the national level or here at the state level, that are openly defying and violating the will of the people, and that are now trying to ram either corrupt elections down our throats, fraudulent stolen elections down our throats, or the outright theft and stealing and misappropriation and abuse and fraud and the waste of our taxpayer dollars. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Richard in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Richard, and welcome.
Morning, Jeff.
Hi, Richard.
I'm calling you because I listen to you a lot. As you know, I call in every so often. It's really a shame what's happening, but it's not surprising. These so-called Republicans are actually these real Republicans, which I do not associate myself with. A lot of people do not. They should be absolutely up in arms, not doing anything, sitting on the Capitol steps, rebelling against this monstrosity that's been created since 1871. Since 1871, you're seeing the fruits of the Constitutional Act of 1871, and nobody knows about that. No one talks about that kind of thing. The eventuality of what happened after World War II, we've been lulled into a comfort zone that people, their idea of America is making sure they get their house payment or their car or their pool payment or something, and forget about liberty, real liberty. And we are ineffective as a country because we have lost our way, which is the way of people who were here in the 1700s, people in my family who fought in the Revolutionary War. Yeah, I'm a son of the Revolution. And they have lost their way because the people that fought in the Revolution, they risked losing everything, so that we could have internet. Anything from Amazon to pornography. I mean, we have everything now that our perverse and absolutely malcontented hearts desire. And what do we have? We have these so-called halcyons of our Constitution, which is nonsense, stabbing us in the back constantly and have been doing it for a long, long time.
Richard, look, I agree. And there are many reasons, many factors. You've laid out some of them, I think, very powerfully and eloquently. If you were to ask me, if we're to be like, as I like to say, if I'm to be brutally honest, like I'm in the confessional, I think the root of what we're seeing is the loss of God. You know, you mentioned, again, we're less than a month away from our 250th birthday as a nation. What was it that motivated all of those great patriots? The love of God, which extended to the love of country, the love of family, where they openly said, it's right there in the Declaration, our rights do not come from King George III. Our rights do not come from the government. Our rights come from our Creator, from God Almighty, and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So basically, our most fundamental, cherished freedoms and liberties are given to us by God. They're endowed to us. They're inalienable. That means no government can take it away. I mean, unless we willingly give it away. It's an incredible document. The Declaration is unbelievable. And, you know, and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, these are the greatest documents of human freedom and personal liberty in the history of the world. And it led to the birth, not just to me, of an incredible nation. To me, 1776, July 4th is Independence Day. To me, July 4th it's the day we won our independence. But it led to the greatest constitutional republic ever. Ever. But the underpinning, and I'm not talking religion, I'm not trying to convince people to go to a certain church or whatever. I'm just saying, at the root of this was the sense and understanding of God. You take away God, you take away our country, you take away our freedoms and the rights and liberties that are given to us by this Creator. Everything collapses. A sense of right and wrong, moral absolutes. And that's where we are as a country. That's the problem in a nutshell. And, you know, Dostoevsky, the very famous Russian novelist and philosopher, famously said, once you remove God, everything becomes possible. Everything. Everything. In other words, the most unimaginable evils. And that's what's eating away at us as a nation. Now to the point they're stealing elections to our face. To our face. Or take, you know, the case I'm talking about with the state audit. It's our money. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, you know, be a rabble rouser, but I'm just going to be honest. What's the point of paying taxes if we can't have any oversight over how our money is being spent? It's our money. It's off the sweat of our brow. And just so that people understand, ballpark, okay? Everybody's different. People, they make different amounts of money, different income levels. People live in different states. Some have state income taxes, some don't. So I'm making all the qualifications and nuances. In essence, 50% of our income, give or take, goes to the government. 50%. Now, you know what that means? I'll tell you what that means. That means from January to June, maybe even July, you're working for the government. Half the year, you're working for the government. Think of that. The other half, you're working for yourself and your family. Now, if I'm going to spend half a year of my life, every year, working for the government to pay taxes, I think as a free citizen, because I'm not a serf, the last time I checked, I'm not a slave, the last time I checked, so I think I have a right to know where the hell is my money going to? What's it funding? What's it paying for? Do I want it to go there? Do I approve of it? Do I not approve of it? Is it in my interest? Is it in the interest of my neighbors, my community, my family, where I live? They won't even give us that. And then when we vote for it, overwhelmingly, they give us the middle finger. And it's not just, they were stalling and stalling and stalling. Now, you're going to write a law and try to pass it and tell us we don't have a right to oversee how you spend our money? So everybody else can be audited. You can be audited, Richard, by the IRS. I can be audited. Everybody in this audience, we can be audited. But those crooks on Beacon Hill can't? Are you effing kidding me? Now, let me ask all of you. Let me just ask the question because it answers itself. Go back in time. It's not June 5th, 2026. It's now June 5th, 250 years, time machine, 1776. And this was happening then. No, we voted, we want an audit, or we want safe elections, free and fair elections. We're going to have, I know they didn't have ID at that time, but you know what I mean, voter ID and proof of citizenship. It's what 80% of we Americans are calling us at the time. That's what we want. You think George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and Samuel Adams and Patrick Henry, and I could go on, and Alexander Hamilton and Benjamin Franklin, you think they would say, okay, guys, if you don't want us to audit you, okay, take our money. No, we don't want to have free and fair elections. No, continue to steal. Continue to engage in fraud. You think they would put up with this? So what's the difference? Now, I'm not saying pick up a gun. But we as Americans have to say, whose country is it? Now, are we going to sell our birthright out? I don't want to sell it out. Why? Why should we sell it out? Why? Why enslave ourselves to these parasites and leeches and these crooks? Because that's what they are. They're crooks. And these traitors, because that's what they are. They're traitors. So I'm not bending the knee to Maura Healey. I'm not bending the knee to Mitch McConnell. I'm not bending the knee to Chuck Schumer. I'm not bending the knee to, these Karen Spilka and Mariano up on Beacon Hill, the House Speaker and the Senate President. Are you crazy? Our ancestors are rolling in their graves. They work for us. We don't work for them. It's not your money. It's our money. Open up the effing books. Like, I'm sorry, we got to stop asking nicely. Now we're demanding. So, Richard, look, I so agree with you. You have no idea. But look, John Adams, to me, one of the greatest founding fathers. Maybe I know there's Samuel Adams. I know there are others. Okay, Paul Revere. To me, personally, just my opinion, I think the greatest citizen that Massachusetts has ever produced. Okay, I think he's the greatest, John Adams, and one of the greatest founding fathers. He openly said it. He said, we have the greatest constitutional republic, form of government. He said, in the history of the world, we have it. We just gave it to you. But it depends on one thing. He goes, without it, it won't work. It is, quote, our Constitution is made for a, quote, I'm quoting you verbatim now, a religious, moral people. In other words, you have to believe in God. He goes, without those constraints, without this underpinning everything that we do, he goes, the Constitution is like a net trying to hold a whale. That the whale will just break on through. That evil forces will just break through like a whale through a net. Look, I got a brilliant text. 508. Let me summarize. It's long, so I'll summarize it for you. He said, Jeff, why are the Democrats getting away with killing the SAVE Act? Why are the Democrats now getting away with passing a law, or a bill, soon to be a law, literally preventing us from doing an audit? of our money. Because they always get away with it. Always. The Democrats know one thing. If we're to keep our eyes open, if we're to be honest, as the French would say, among us, entre nous, okay? Among us girls, let's just be honest. They're never held accountable. They're never held responsible. They never go to jail. They're never punished. Ever, ever, ever. So they know. We can spit in your face. We can abuse you. We can mistreat you. We can steal from you. Hell, we can even steal elections from you. We can steal your money from you. We can steal everything from you. Your rights, your liberties. We can take it all. And nothing will happen. And they know nothing will happen. So that's why they just keep doing it over and over and over. And they get more brazen and more bold. And that's why I keep saying over and over again, will we finally stop them? And I'm telling you, it's like the Soviet Union. You're going to be shocked because they're so rotten to the core. The rot is so deep. The moral rot, the spiritual rot, the political, intellectual rot. It'll just collapse like a house of cards. You'll be amazed how they'll fall. That's why I always say, everybody says, well, Jeff, you only want one person to go to jail. Because I think that's all that you need. I mean, I want them to all go to jail. Just start putting a couple of them in jail. Just a couple. That's it. And you watch. But there's the difference between now and 1776. Look at the Iron Men. They were men, true patriots, spines of steel. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, Samuel Adams. I could go on and on. These were giants. These were men. They respected themselves. They respected their colonies. They respected their states. They respected their country. They respected their fellow countrymen and women. Now, and by the way, none of them were whores. Quite the opposite. And they were all, in fact, they openly said this. Yeah, we're well off. Of course we're well off. That's why we're not going to take a bribe. In other words, our economic financial independence will guarantee our political independence. Like, sure, we do well. But, the love of money is the root of all evil. They understood that. Sometimes enough is enough. It's greed that's killing us. The last thing they were was greedy. Us, it's greed. It's just greed. Everybody says it. If America is to fall, this is our deadly sin. The love of money, greed. It's just never enough. It's just never enough money. And that's, Tom Tillis sold us out for money. Susan Collins for money. Mitch McConnell for money. Murkowski for money. Thune for money. I'm not even forget the Democrats. We all know that. Beacon Hill. They're making money hand over fist. And by the way, there's a sexual slush fund. That's, I think, another thing they're trying to protect because they're all a bunch of deviants and perverts. So they also got to protect. You're going to say, what? Like in Congress. What? How many? What? How much money have they been paying out to, to their victims and to people they've harassed and abused? So they in a sense, look, I don't blame them. It's like a mob. You open up the books of a gangster, he's finished. He's got no choice but to obstruct. They're the same. They've committed so many crimes, they can't open up the books because then they're finished. And they know they're finished. So, no, you're going to open up the books. But to do that, here, I'm telling you, maybe 1% of the population in Massachusetts, 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever, people that listen to this show know what's going on right now on Beacon Hill. It's a minority. Most people, they're oblivious. They actually think that Diana DiZoglio is fighting them in court, and eventually they believe that good will triumph over evil. That's what they think, and that Diana will eventually get her audit through. And they're like, you have no clue what they're doing, how they're blocking this poor woman, and now they're passing laws to protect themselves. Because the Globe won't report it. The Herald, that rhino rag, they won't touch it. Channel 4, Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 10, Channel 25, WGBH, I can run down the whole list. NPR, they won't touch this story with a 10-foot pole. Because they're all in bed to cover up either the Democrats or the corrupt rhinos. That's why, there's a famous saying, knowledge is power. Once people have knowledge, you can't stop them. That's why I always say, unmask everything, expose everything. Once you do that, they're finished. They have to keep themselves in the darkness because they can't fight in the light. They're like, literally, think of vampires. If you want to understand what we're up against. Yes, they're ferocious in the shadows. They're deadly in the shadows. But in sunlight, they wither and they burn up. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Expose them, and they're finished. Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Great show.
Thank you, Tom.
Jeff, you bring out points that a lot of people don't know about, which is why your show is one of the best. You do a good job. I want to bring out a few points, if I can, on elections and all that. What everybody has to realize that unless you change the election process to have it on this one day, election day, paper ballots, you don't move the paper ballots from the precincts. At the end of the night, you just dump it on the table. You have those ballots under surveillance 24/7. That's the only way you're going to have a fair election. This mail-in ballots, you have to get rid of. And because now both Republicans and Democrats have the election system down to a T as far as how they're going to get elected. With mail-in ballots, they all do it. They all stuff the ballots. You have Republicans that get 70% of their vote, congressmen, senators, 65% Republicans. Same thing with the Democrats. DeSantis got 65% of the vote in Florida. They have mail-in ballots. He has it down to a science that he's going to get elected. They all do. And in fact, Nunes, when he ran for Congress, he admitted he had to get with the system, with the mail-in ballots, everything. So they all do it. Now, if you don't get rid of that, you're not going to have any decent, fair elections. They're out the window. And by me and you going and voting at the ballot box, we're part of the movie. We got over 100 million people as the cast. We're feeding into it. Me and you, we go to that, right? Mail-in ballots. We don't know if our ballots counted. They go in a room somewhere 2 months before the election. No surveillance, nothing. And they just sit in a room, and we're expected to believe that they don't add hundreds of millions of ballots and count them at the end of the night. In California, 50% of the ballots were counted after a couple days. So it's up to the American, like Trump. It's
Tom,
up to
can you
him.
do me a favor? Because you are killing it. You have so hit the nail on the head, it's not even funny. Okay, let's go right back to Tom in New Hampshire. Tom was saying, unless you get rid of mail-in balloting, you will never stop the fraud and the cheating. Please, Tom, pick up where you left off.
Yeah, like I said, if you don't have the same day voting and the ballots dumped on the table, and counted right at the precinct. They're not transported to City Hall and all that. What's happened for years, even with the paper ballots, and they fix it that way. 24-hour surveillance. And like I said, Jeff, they all do this. Republicans, Democrats. Yes, the Democrats are more radical than the Republicans. But when you have people getting 65, 70% of the vote, Republicans, McCarthy got 70% or more votes in his district, and it was 50% minority. So they're all part of the system now. They all have it nailed down how to get elected, and they don't want to change it. They're not going to change mail-in ballot to get themselves elected. So it's up to the people or the president. Don't vote. Hundreds of millions of people, it's a farce. So you get the attention, you just don't vote. Don't be part of the farce. Don't be part of the system. And it's up to Trump. He's got nothing to lose. He's got Pulte in charge now. I'm sure there's tons of intelligence people that can go to these machines and say they're faulty. You can hack them. Same thing with the mail-in ballots. Go to Capitol Hill, explain how it's faulty. And the only fair way is Election Day. Get CIA experts or whoever. And Trump signed an executive order to have the election on Election Day, like the federal law reads, that they passed in the 1800s. And you got to realize when our colonists first started voting in the 1600s, say the General Court, Massachusetts, they would vote on one day, and they would vote in person, say at a picnic. And they would stand up, say their name, and who they're voting for. That's how it all started out. So now you got completely, it's like Fibonacci, like it's all make-believe. It's all up in the air. What we have, the system that we have.
No, I get what you're saying, Tom. I really do. Look, I'm with you. I think we need to have, A, voter ID, to me, no question, proof of citizenship, just to register to vote. I think that's another absolute necessity. We have to purge all the voting rolls. All of them have to be completely purged. No dead people, no non-citizens, no illegal aliens. All of that has to be purged from every single voting roll in every state. And then I agree with you. We should have it the way we had it before. In person, paper ballots, same-day voting. Now, we do have military overseas. There are some people who are very sick or homebound. So you can make a few exceptions. Okay, a few. But outside of those few exceptions, this idea, you get a ballot at your house, then you just apparently fill it out, or someone fills it out, and then they just, harvest it and then send it somewhere, and it just sits there for, as you put it, weeks, if not months. Look, Jimmy Carter opposed mail-in balloting. He said because when he went around the world and looked at stolen, corrupt, illegal, or fraudulent elections, he said the number one source of fraudulent, corrupt elections, this is Jimmy Carter, said it was mail-in balloting. He goes, it's rife with corruption. Everywhere it's been tried, in every country. It doesn't matter. In Europe, in North America, in Asia, in Latin America, in Africa, in the Middle East. It doesn't matter where it's been tried. It is always full and rampant with corruption. And he said, so if you want to have honest elections, the first thing you have to do is get rid of mail-in balloting. That's Jimmy Carter. So that tells you everything you need to know. Tom, as always, love the call. 617-266-6868. Gabriel in Natick. Thanks for holding, Gabriel, and welcome.
Oh, yes. A spirited, conservative, patriot greetings from the hinterlands of Natick, my dear friend. How are you?
Good, Gabriel. I didn't know there were any in Natick. God bless you, man.
Thank you, and God bless you, too. Thanks for all of your courage and everything you do for our state and our country, sir.
Oh, my pleasure.
And,
my pleasure, Gabriel.
Yeah, and I want you to know that I get up early every morning. I listen from 6 to 10. Now that I'm retired, I have the time, and I'm a loyal listener. I've been with you ever since 2012, sir, since the outset.
Thank you. Gabriel, what's on your mind, my friend?
Yes, you're very welcome. And by the way, you're the greatest talk show host of all time that I have ever heard.
Oh,
I want you to know
Thank
that.
you.
I mean that from
You're
the heart.
too kind. Thank you. Gabriel, what do you make of all this?
Well, I think that we need to take action. Yes, it's fine to complain, but I think that, like Ben Franklin said, we give you a republic if you can keep it. And you know that tyranny is invited by complacency, and if we don't take action, nothing will change. So I think that President Trump and the Republicans this fall should run. Hopefully, on this issue, hopefully the war will be over by then, and the inflation, high prices will start to come down. And they.
Oh, Gabriel, please hang on. I'm going to come right back to you. We're up against a hard break. But Gabriel says he's got to make election integrity front and center in the midterms. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. We're almost halfway through 2026, and this is the time of year I encourage people to pause and ask themselves one simple question. Am I still on track? Because retirement planning isn't set it and forget it. Life changes. Spending creeps up. Healthcare costs rise, family situations change, and a lot of people drift off course without realizing it until years later. That's exactly why my team at Kelly Financial created our complimentary investor guide, 5 Retirement Planning Missteps to Dodge. It highlights some of the most common blind spots: underestimating health care, ignoring inflation, putting off long-term care, and forgetting to update your plan as life changes. To request your copy or to schedule a conversation with our team, give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff will continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or catch the radio rewind on our website. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. 9:34 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, let's go right back to Gabriel in Natick. Gabriel, you are on a roll. Please pick up where you left off.
So much, my dear friend. And by the way, I wish you were my next-door neighbor. You're like the brother I never had. I had sisters growing up, but I never had a brother. I consider you like family. I love you like family, dear friend.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Gabriel. I'm a brother from another mother.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, in order for evil to triumph in the world and in this country, good men would do nothing. So I know a wise man once said that. So we need to get active, start getting very active on social media, send emails, make phone calls, and write letters. And I think if we called the comment line at the White House, and I do have the number here, I would ask if your audience, and by the way, I do love your audience, and we're like family, so please, everyone, feel the love, and the love that Jeff has for our country, and that we all do. The number is 202-456-1111. And just encourage, please, President Trump to issue an executive order to push for the SAVE Act and to initiate all of these ballot reforms, election reforms that we're discussing, the ones that you mentioned, and also to replace Senator John Thune, the majority leader there from South Dakota.
Oh, I agree. I so agree. And I agree with you as well. He's got to make voter fraud, election integrity, mail-in balloting, he's got to make that the issue or one of the issues front and center, a key issue in the November election. He has to. He has to. Because if we don't get massive reform, the Democrats are going to ruin our country and they're going to steal it. They're going to steal it right underneath our nose. Gabriel, thank you so much for that call. Agree, disagree. I mentioned term limits. Let me just throw this quick log on the fire. Is it time now for term limits, in your view? If you were on the fence before, are you for it now? If you were against it before, are you for it now? I've always been, frankly, for term limits. Now I'm even more for it than I ever was before. To me, what you're seeing now screams the need for term limits. 2 terms for a senator, that's it. And I never got this. We put term limits on the president, rightly so. I'm not saying no, rightly so. How come we can't have term limits for senators and members of Congress? To me, of everybody in Washington, who's more important than the president? Oh, look at this. Look at this. You know what Mike just said in my ear? What about radio hosts just like you? Always with the cheap shot, always with the dig. Huh, Mike? You never miss an opportunity to stick it to the Kuhner man. So, Mike, I'm just curious. What do you think, term limits for radio hosts? What do you think? What would be the cutoff for you, Mike? I'm 56. 55. Mike says after 55 years old, you're off the air. Mike, I'd like to know, what did I ever do to you, Mike? That's what I want to know. All right. Mike in Brighton. By the way, so 2 terms for the Senate. And what do you want? 3 terms for the House? 4 terms for the House? Max 6 years? 8 years? How much more do you need? In other words, this shouldn't be a career. It should be what you say it is, public service. So 2 terms, 3 or 4 terms in the House, and go back to the private sector. Agree, disagree. Mike in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Mike, and welcome.
Jeff, good morning. Hey, you got a lot of great callers, a lot of good information, a lot of good ideas, but they're all ideas. And what's happening is the playbook is there. The Democrats don't care that we see it now. They don't care. They're just plowing through it because their end goal is the midterms and the next election. And if that happens, we don't have a prayer. One of the things that's going on in Massachusetts is very similar to the stuff that's going on with the cheat by mail. The Democrats plead ignorance. They put their hands up. They say nothing's happening. And then they obfuscate, they block, they lie. And in the end result, when we vote in an audit, they don't honor it because they can't. So what that tells me is, one of your callers alluded to the mob. It's what we have right now. And it's not just the Democrats. Republicans are involved too, but it's basically the Democratic House of cards is all there, and they can't let the fraud out anymore. Because once those numbers are exposed, and once the voter rolls are exposed, and they actually close off the Social Security loop for all the illegals and all the other components of the census that are artificially inflating their seats and their power, they're going to wither and die. The only problem is they're not going to let that happen. They're not going to vote themselves to hand over information that's going to put them in jail. What we have to do And it's got to start in Massachusetts. It's time for Massachusetts voters and taxpayers to step up, get an audit done by the feds as a RICO standard, because that's what it is.
Oh, I love it.
They are with laws that they create after the crime has been done. And when we call them on the crime, they create a new law. The people that are in power right now, Maura Healey, I don't know if this could work over to Wu, but, we can deal with Wu later. The reality is Maura Healey has got to go. She's got to be censored. She's got to be stopped from making any laws or doing any legislature until that audit is done. And if they refuse to do it, and it takes too long to go through the midterms or the elections coming up, she needs to be frozen. That the election needs to be frozen. She cannot run for governor until that is done. The federal government.
Oh, Mike, I love it. No, look. It's what we're seeing now is a mafia state, a political mafia state. That's really what it is. And I'm not just talking Massachusetts. In all of these blue states, all with the Democrats and their rhino collaborators, it's basically, you're right, it's like dealing with the mob, except they happen to be in politics, which when you really think about it, if you're a thief, that's the best thing to do because you're the one with the power. It's like, it's a license to print money. So if someone said to me, Jeff, I want to go into a life of crime, I said, don't get into the drug cartels or the mobs or the gang or, the mob families, because you risk going to jail. Just become a politician. We've got to apply RICO. I love it. I love it. And I think the Republicans now need to make the audit the issue of this campaign. It's got to be the issue. We have that audit. We open up the books. We expose all of that corruption and fraud. Eddie in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Eddie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Eddie.
You really need to take a look at how the ballot questions are handled in this state. The Secretary of State looks it over. If it's okay, he lets it go on the ballot. But once it's passed, it's not like California. It doesn't automatically become law. Then it goes back to the legislature, and I think they have to okay it in two consecutive terms. So if they pass a law that says it's against the law to audit them, you'll never get it on the ballot again because it will go before the Secretary of State, and he's just going to say, no, this can't have this. It's against the law. And that'll be the only way to get these people. We talk about this every time something happens. The only way to get these people, we've got to vote them out of office. And, term limits, we couldn't even get the SAVE Act passed.
Oh, well, Eddie, I agree with you. You're talking about, these blind, partisan Democrats who just keep pulling the lever for the D. After a while, I don't know what to say. Hopefully when they find out that they don't want their tax dollars to be audited, that enough Democrats are going to get upset and angry, rank and file Democrats, and start voting these bums out. But, it's hard, Eddie, because the media, I don't care if it's the print media, the TV media in this state, they are suppressing and burying this story as much as they can because they know the outrage it's going to cause among most voters. So you see, that's the problem. It's like they have a stranglehold by controlling the media and then controlling the Beacon Hill and now controlling the ballot process. They're trying to completely stifle and suffocate the voters. And we have to find a way to punch through that. And so I'm open to suggestions. I was going to think, let's do a rally, but then the media doesn't cover the rally. So how much punch or effect does that have? But at a bare minimum, if the Republicans make it an issue, the audit an issue, whoever the nominee is going to end up being, whether it's Minogue or Shortsleeve, it doesn't matter. If they can make it central to their campaign, and people say, what? They just passed a law to what? Prevent an audit? What? At least then, people will get angry, people will know about it, and it may start to turn the tide. Eddie, final word to you. What say you?
I've been thinking of this for a long time, but it just seems to never happen. But it's in the legislature right now. If they don't want to be audited, they're not going to be audited. And if they pass a law and they get it passed in the next couple of months, you'll never see a ballot question on this again, unless you repeal the law.
You're dead on. Well, that's why they're doing it. And they're doing it in the dead of night. They're doing it at the time where people are, like this weekend. People are going to be, apparently it's going to be a beautiful weekend, nice, hot. They're off to the beach. They're going to be off outside with their families, going to picnics, going to parks, hanging out. People have lives. And they're just going to sneak this into the Senate and pass it so quick your head's going to spin. And then Healy will find the right time to sign it, and boom, it's the law. And that's why we've got to now expose it while we still can. Eddie, thank you very much for that call. Bob in North Andover. Thanks for holding, Bob, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. Jeff, I think I have a solution, and it's the only one that we really need to use in Massachusetts. Next election, don't vote any incumbent in. Vote every incumbent out completely, and let's raise our voices loud and clear.
I'm with you. Just so that people know, every Democrat voted yes on this you can look it up, H5469, this bill that is going to make it illegal now to do an audit of the state legislature. It's incredible. But to give the Republicans their due, and you know how critical I am of the Mass GOP, but on this one, 28 Republicans voted niet. They voted no. So I think the Republicans realized their voters would never forgive them if they crossed the aisle. So the Republicans did hold the line on this one. But now they got to campaign on it. They got to make it a central issue. They've got to make people aware of it. They got to fight against this. They have to galvanize. They got to go out on the campaign trail, and they got to hit this issue with everything they have. So we're going to see how serious they are in their opposition. But I can tell you this, Bob, I am going to skewer the Democrats. I'm going to roast them on this because this is blatant corruption. It's a blatant cover-up. And maybe, fingers crossed, the national media will pick it up. And if the national media picks it up, then the Democrats may be too exposed and they may have to backtrack. So that's why I keep saying, please, if you can, go to @the Report. I have my X post up. It's there. It's 3-4 sentences. It's not much, but send it out there. Let people be aware of what has just happened. They're trying to kill the ballot initiative. They want to kill the audit. Thank you for that call, Bob. Let me see if I can squeeze one more in. Frank in Framingham. Frank, I hate to do this to you. 1 minute left. Go.
All right, Jeff. Hey, thanks. First time.
Welcome, Frank.
On your program, Omega for America. And they obviously are excellent in spotting voting fraud across the country. And one of the areas, obviously, is mail-in ballots, as everyone agrees, is fraudulent. But specifically for mail-in ballots, it's the addresses associated with them. So what's happening right now in California is that a lot of these mail-in ballots are coming out, and these fraudulent addresses, basically there's people that have been on the ballots for years. The names are legitimate, but the addresses are not. And now they just start harvesting all these because they're shipped to places. The NGOs pick them up, and at the end of the day, they make their numbers come out.
Frank, you just exposed the fraud in 60 seconds. In 60 seconds, you exposed the whole thing. Succinctly, simply, and powerfully.